Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. How do you care for a newborn? What are you going to do if you're a brand new parent? Kid number 1. Kid number 2 is a snap. It falls on the floor. Who cares? The food falls on the floor. You don't care. You don't care if your toilet lids are up with kid number 2. But kid number 1, excuse me, Grandma, you got to wear gloves to hold the kid. It's just the way it is. I don't understand. Whitney Caceres is our guest. She's written a book, The Newborn Baby Blueprint, Preparing to Care for Your Infant and Yourself. Dr. Whitney, welcome to Late Night Health. You're also known as Dr. Mom, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, as the modern mommy doc.
The modern mommy doc. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. You have 2 kids?
2 kids, 2 girls, almost 2 and almost 5.
Oh my gosh. Where do you have time to do anything but?
In the middle of the night, a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee in the middle of the night, just like being in med school.
That's true.
Right?
Just like residency.
Yeah, just like residency, which we need to change and only have residents work 40 hours a week, not 87.
Oh, absolutely. I can get on my soapbox all day about that.
Yeah. We will talk. If you are working that much, the chance of making mistakes with Dr. Smith or Mr. Smith with his splinter are much more evident than if you're only working 40 hours and have sleep at night.
Sure. Well, sleep deprivation affects us all, including new moms. And I think that's one of the things in my book that I talk a lot about is that we don't really give moms a lot of resources to make sure that their number one resource, which is sleep, is taken care of. We care about the baby sleep, but we don't really invest a lot of resources or help into mom's sleep.
You're in Portland. Are you from Portland originally?
I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area and moved to the East Coast with my husband for medical school, went back down to Stanford for my residency, and then I've been here about 8 years in Portland. So
in Portland, did you obviously you had your kids in Portland. Mm-hmm. What kind of support, your mother, his mother, support did you have or didn't you?
Yeah, I really had hardly any support with my first daughter. I had friends who were around. I had my pediatrician, who was a work partner of mine. But a lot of my friends, they were already a little bit more into the older years because I had my kids a little bit later, just given my career choices. And so I felt alone. And as a doctor, I didn't feel like I fit in really at the mommy and me groups.
Right.
Right. Just talk to people. And so when I did this, I felt like I was really facing it alone. And with my second daughter, I made a conscientious effort to make sure that ahead of time I had help.
And that support is really important so that you can bond with your kid. You still have to work with your husband. You need to, do something about eating. You've got a baby to change. You still need to get on with your own life and take time for yourself, but your baby's 2 weeks old.
Yes.
And and kids, no offense, the kids don't come with a how-to guide.
No how-to manual, and people talk a lot about what can go right with breastfeeding or how to help your baby sleep like a baby, but they don't talk about then when it doesn't, what should you do and what are the realistic expectations on that. Instead, they kind of have these Pinterest-worthy posts or social media things that say, if you do these 5 things, then your baby will be perfect and everything will go exactly right. So I think that's part of the problem. My second time around, I found a lot more help from, I had a nanny who had with my first daughter, and she helped me even with my second, just to sit with me and talk with me while I was with my second. She was a friend to me with my second, and she was someone who, we had her taking my daughter to school and whatnot when I was working, but even on her off hours, she would come and just hang out with me, and we would just have like coffee or tea and sit there. And then I also, the second time around, I realized that I had spent too much emphasis, spent too much money probably on baby registry items and like the cutest little hat and all those things. And the second time around, I decided if I was going to penny pinch and spend money on one thing or another, then I would spend money on having a postpartum doula at my house a couple nights. So that way I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel every third night or fourth night, just for a couple weeks. So I had an extra set of hands that was helping me.
Wait, you're a doctor. You know, doctors are rich. That's what they all say. Come on.
Not pediatricians. No, I mean, actually, I think people overestimate that. I was on another show, and they were saying, well, that's not practical for moms, but I actually think it's about prioritizing, right? I see so many of these moms at baby shows and online and on the registries, and when I go to showers, and I'm thinking as I see them opening their gifts, that's adorable, but it's probably not going to help you in the long run, and I care so much more about your mental health than I do about you having the cutest nursery or the cutest clothing or whatnot.
Right, and we hear about, every now and then, it's a horrific thing, postpartum depression gets hold of a woman, and she ends up killing the kid.
Yeah.
And maybe herself.
Yes, yeah, maybe herself, maybe her child. I didn't have that severe postpartum depression and anxiety, but I definitely struggled with that after my first baby. You know, of course, contributing factors of she was a tough baby. We called her a hater baby. We called her limoncello, like for the, the Italian liqueur. Yeah, because she was the sweetest baby when she was being sweet, but she was the sourest baby when she was being sour. And man, that day after day after day, Google searching, crowdsourcing, trying to figure out there must be some fix for this baby, just wore me down after a while. And when I finally got the help that I needed and recognized it and told people that I had it, because there's a lot of stigma still around that, right? You should be able to kind of buck up and take care of your child, and you're not kind of meeting what the picture is of like the perfect mom. That's when things started to get better for me. I'm always encouraging people to be brave and talk to their healthcare providers.
And after a baby's born, can mom have a drink?
Well,
in moderation?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, what I would say is to people, of course you want to think about the why. If you're having a small drink with the meal after your baby is born, and that's a nice, relaxing thing that kind of gets you back to yourself, absolutely. We don't want people drinking in excess because they're feeling really down or really anxious, and so they're using that as kind of a medication. And we also want to make sure we're being safe with baby. But yes, an occasional drink after baby is born, if you're breastfeeding, if you in the right timing, can be fine. And
you mentioned limoncello. If you want Mark's secret recipe for a Cosmo, that is the primary ingredient.
Is limoncello? Oh,
is limoncello. It goes with everything else that you put into a Cosmo, but the limoncello makes it really extra special. We get the baby. In my case, both of my kids were handed to me prior to my wife because they were working on her, for one thing. My job was, we had planned this in advance. I checked 10 toes, 10 fingers, and to make sure that the kid was cute, or I have to hand it back. And, both beautiful kids, and they were... It was such a light switch as a dad to hold this little bundle that we've been waiting for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect for a day or two. And then you're on your own.
Yeah.
Is that where your book comes in?
Yeah, that's where my book comes in. It comes in after you're already home, after you're there without the help from the hospital. That's when it really, really matters. My book also gives information about when you're at the hospital on how to navigate that, how to advocate for yourself, how to make breastfeeding if you're going to breastfeed, how to make that the most successful.
And you advocate that, of course, breastfeeding.
Yeah, of course. I do advocate breastfeeding. Of course, I'm a steward of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I believe in that for sure. The one area where I feel like we need to give our moms some more grace is that some moms work and work and work at the breastfeeding, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't happen in the way that they hoped. And then because we've put so much pressure on the breastfeeding, now these moms feel like complete failures if they end up having to use formula, if they end up having to use something else. And that's not right either. So I'm always
if they're, I can remember what we did was we kind of just tried it, and it worked. You kind of forget about it, if that makes sense. And it's like I was watching some movie the other night late. I couldn't sleep, and newborn baby. They had they adopted a baby, and the baby is 2 years old, and they love the baby. And she goes to the doctor. She wasn't feeling well. She thought she had a bad case of the flu, and of course she's pregnant. And I hear this one all the time in that, hey, you've relaxed. And it happens. It's the same thing with breastfeeding for the most part.
Yes. Yeah, no, same thing with breastfeeding. Definitely, that's not the only key to things. It's not like if every single person was zenned out, they'd be able to breastfeed perfectly. But that helps. It helps in everything. It helps in parenting the further you go along. The more relaxed you are, the more mindful you are, the more that you're paying attention to, okay, I'm doing the best I can in this moment. That's, I think, what makes people successful when they are new parents and parents of toddlers as they get older, when they're observant. You're just watching and saying, that's interesting that they're doing that. Okay, wonder what that means. Okay, all right.
Well, we all want to be perfect parents, too, moms and dads. But we can't be. We're going to screw our kids up one way or another.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Sometimes my dad says, if you can pay for your kids to go to therapy, then you've been a successful parent.
I love that. It's interesting to me that number one kid has one set of rules, and you don't even have to wash your hands, as I said, with number two. Why is that?
Yes. Oh, of course. Well, I think when you become a second-time parent, then you've been able to help someone survive till at least that age. You know that you're capable of having your kid not die for a couple of years. And so you feel confident. and you know what to expect, right? You're less about maybe the rules every single time. You're able to feel your own way and do things by your gut instinct a little bit. And then also you just don't have the time or the bandwidth. I mean, you just don't have the ability in your brain, I think, a lot of times to be quite so kind of anal retentive on every single thing.
Of course. And at the same time, you need sleep, and you may not get it, especially if you don't have support. Our guest is Whitney Caceres. She's a medical doctor, a pediatrician, a mom. The Newborn Baby Blueprint is the name of the book, preparing to care for your infant and yourself once the kid pops out. We're going to take some time out. When we come back, we will continue with Dr. Whitney as Late Night Health continues, and you can check her out at modernmommydoc.com, modernmommydoc.com.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. It's true there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in our world. Each of those stars has a unique light just like your beautiful soul. Of all the challenges you've faced, you can only be made better for them. Just as all the great masterworks of art have weathered the wrath of time, only to become more revered in their inherent beauty, you too are counted among these masterpieces. It's true, the further that you climb, the further you have to fall. But aren't those incredibly beautiful views worth the risk? Never underestimate what you're capable of. Keep climbing and never look back.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit GuideToTheSoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on LateNightHealth.com.
The stigma around mental health disorders and suicide is still very strong in our culture. It's an uncomfortable topic for many of us, and yet it's something we can't afford to ignore, according to Dan Shuck, the author of A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups. Last month, the CDC released a study that reports suicide rates went up more than 30% in half the states since 1999. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, takes a new approach to addressing mental illness. The book playfully explores pessimism versus optimism to find balance, manage stress, and enjoy life. The book uses humor to provide an opportunity to determine the fullness of our own glass and how to apply it to our daily lives. Donations from the proceeds of the book will be made to a Glass Half Question fundraising campaign for the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, is available from Amazon.com, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. For more information, visit www.glasshalfquestion.com.